Welcome in to the most recent episode of Betting the Pitch. I'm your host, _G Warner, on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. And we will be going through the top 5 European soccer leagues, trying to get you ready and find some best bets for this weekend. Have been a pretty good week, trying to be a little bit more transparent with records because there's so many plays that are coming in and out. But I think I was 67% since last Friday, so it's been a great week. Going to try to equal those totals again after a really good Champions League. Perfect Champions League, actually. Probably should put that out there. But we'll start with the English Premier League. That's where the money is. If you're not a member of my Patreon yet, check it out. Patreon.com/real_G Warner. Best spot to get all my plays, leans, write-ups, everything across all sports, especially college basketball, which we are now back to 37 units to the green. Made 36 last year at pregame. So on pace to set some records there. Hopefully, you can keep going the right direction. I think we're up to 59% this season. So it's been a really great year. And it's perfect time to join the Patreon, especially because you get all my plays there, my leans each night. You'll know where I'm going. If you download the application, you can actually get a notification each time I lock something in. So you make sure you get the same price that I do. So thank you all for joining on Twitter, for Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Please leave a 5-star review. It's huge for the search rankings. Or if you're on YouTube, please hit subscribe. So we'll start in England and we'll go to Aston Villa hosting Nottingham Forest. Currently, Villa a 1-goal favorite right now with a little bit more juice. Over under is 3, juiced a little bit more to over, or more to over than they are to under. So Aston Villa, they've been a great home team. I think a lot because of their defense. So they have certainly scored a lot more goals at home. And they get a Nottingham Forest side that have been playing much better than I think they're. I don't know if you call this a Nuno Espirito Santo thing because the manager change happened middle of the season. I don't think there's a lot of faith in him, but he's delivered a lot of results. I'm tempted not to believe in them because I just don't think he's a very good manager. He's certainly a defensive one, which if that's what you need, then he certainly can be good. I just don't really believe that Nottingham Forest are going to keep winning games. They've been, I think, far outperforming their talent level, and just, I mean, their manager has been there to try to like oversee a huge overhaul of talent that have come in. How good is the talent is questionable, but Nottingham Forest clearly have deep pockets, though I think it's going to get them in trouble and probably potentially get them a 10-point deduction from financial sustainability rules in the Premier League, which will certainly throw their bid to try to stay in the league again even more into doubt. But Nottingham Forest on the road, not a huge fan. I do like getting full goals insurance, but I'm not sure it's enough for me. I think I'm most interested in under 3 goals, and I will be doing an ultimate best bet end of show. Sorry if I didn't mention that, but stick around. You get a best bet from each of the 5 European leagues I'm covering, and then we'll cut something onto YouTube and onto Instagram. So follow on those platforms as well, the _G Warner. Move next to Brighton hosting Everton. Currently Brighton a 0.5-goal favorite at home with all the juice. Over unders 2 3/4. Juice all the way to over. I don't think the juice is making me choke, but it is going to be a long day as I'm going up to Lawrence, Kansas for Kansas, Texas tomorrow afternoon. Brighton, a 0.5-goal favorite, as I said. Their offense has been the best part to them for years now. And now Everton go on the road and they have to try to stay in a competitive race, though Everton have not been scoring a lot of goals lately. I think the big question now for Everton is, I mean, it looks like that 10-point deduction is sticking. I don't know exactly what's going to happen there, but they're not in great shape at the moment. I don't know necessarily if I can trust them to go on the road and score goals, which makes the 0.5 goal of insurance not really feel like a lot. It looks like the juice is trending towards 3/4 a goal. And the total here is 2 3/4, looking like it might hit to that 3 that coveted 3 for a push if it ends 2-1, 3-0, or something like that nature. So I'm fairly interested in Everton just because I don't really believe that Brighton are going to continue playing the way they have. I mean, I think that yes, they had 2 weeks off essentially from the Europa League after winning their group and getting essentially a bye into the next elimination or knockout round, but I just feel like Brighton have played and they put a ton of miles on their players so far this year. I feel like that will be problematic going down the stretch in the Premier League, especially while Everton, a bigger club with more financials. Well, I mean, I guess you could argue what their financial situation is, but certainly a bigger club with more tradition. That I feel like those players have will last longer this season. Though certainly relegation pressure does not help. So I'll put Everton as I guess under 2 3/4 on my list. Probably most interested if that hits three, and I want to see that side climb. Moving now to Manchester United hosting Fulham. Currently, Manchester United 1 goal favorite at home with slightly more juice on Fulham on the road. Over under here is three, just a little bit more to over. So Manchester United, they have turned around the season, you could argue. They've gotten a lot of results lately after crashing out of Europe and really have an embarrassing start to the year. I'm not sold on that, though. I do feel like at home they've certainly played better there in the theater of dreams. They have a lot of other places. Now, Fulham, they've had a very up and down season, as you'd expect from a mid-table or below mid-table type of team in the Premier League. They look fairly safe from relegation, but ultimately getting a full goal of insurance on the road at Manchester United feels like a nice little price to protect you from a single goal loss. Now, in terms of juice, I'm not really sure where it's going to move. Might even stay here at +1. I know books don't really love that because they don't want to push really at any time because you're basically giving away the money that you made. All the sales that you've done are then basically null and void. But I think the total here at three also, there's a fairly good chance that this is a low scoring match. I just am not really a believer in Kirkland Holland, as they are calling him, with Højlund, who's been really hot, scoring a ton of goals for Manchester United after having such a drought to start his Premier League career. Young player and certainly has been, and hard to argue with striker confidence, but I'm just not really sure that that's something that will be sustainable because a lot of his goals feel like they're pretty fortunate. That does happen from putting pressure on the team or the opposing team, and I expect Manchester United will do that at home, but they're also pretty disinterested in controlling the game and controlling the ball. So I'll put Fulham +1 and under three on my list. Crystal Palace and host Burnley. Current Palace a half a goal favorite at home in the debut of Oliver Glasner, who's a pretty good manager from Frankfurt, who they look like they're really missing him this season. But Palace a half a goal favorite at home. All the juice on Burnley on the road. Over under here is 2 1/4. Juiced almost all the way to over. And I don't really see where goals are coming from this matchup. Burnley have been aggressively promoted from after winning the championship last year and scoring 1 million goals, trying to play that same way, and it clearly did not work. They then have changed to a more pragmatic defensive type of system, which I think does help the under here. I just don't really believe in either of these offenses. I mean, there's certainly going to be plenty of defensive mistakes, as that seems to be not something I'm going to be mad about. It's a new leaf I'm turning over for my soccer betting going forward this year. It's just they happen so much. Goals seem to come from mistakes, so I'm just letting that go, and I'm just going to pretend that each time a goalkeeper just gives the ball away for an uncontested goal, that it's just what happens, and you have to be used to it. There's certainly some potential in this matchup for it, though Crystal Palace are pretty good goalkeepers, and Burnley have an England international Euro champion, I believe, who is probably going to be something someday. But until then, I feel like Crystal Palace, you can't trust them to score goals. They had a good performance on Monday at Everton, but I don't think that was enough necessarily, to say the least, to change any sort of opinion. I think they I mean, Glasner is a defensive manager. I'm not really sure he's going to have much of an impact after just taking over this week. And I guess Crystal Palace ended up drawing with Everton and forgot that last goal. But regardless, under hit, and I feel like under here is a good way to go. Just don't see a lot of goals scoring in this matchup, and I think the favorite is an impaired offense. So I love betting under in those matchups. Moving next to Bournemouth hosting Manchester City. Currently Bournemouth a 1 1/4 goal underdog with more juice on Manchester City on the road. Over under here is 3 1/4, juice all the way to under. And I'm a little surprised to see less scoring expected in a Manchester City match, though. Bournemouth last week got absolutely hosed with a ridiculous offside penalty that was called. Or a penalty was called on a foul on an offside player, which he was offside and running ahead of everyone, which led to his kit, shirt, jersey, whatever we're calling it, being grabbed. And just amazing. Anything the PGMOL, the Premier League Refereeing Association, if they can mess it up, they will mess it up. So Bournemouth here, 1 1/4. I mean, that's the way I'm most interested. They're going to play a defensive brand of football under Anthony Iraola. It's the way he's done it at Rayo Vallecano. They've certainly missed him, just sacked their replacement, realizing that he was not able to play or really do the same type of job that Iraola has done. And ultimately, Manchester City, I mean, they're coming off a midweek match. That's not a big deal for them. They're so used to playing that. I just feel like there's a little bit of difficulty here. Manchester City, they're feeling the pressure of the title race. Didn't really do much against Brentford. Had one great counterattack, which you wouldn't expect from a Manchester City side, but off of a corner kick where Brentford ultimately pushed up too far in their match earlier this week, and that was enough to win. And I think Manchester City are just going for victories at this point, as you would, trying to win the title race and overcome Liverpool and the deficit that they have. And I think Bournemouth have proven that they are very capable, and ultimately one of those teams I want to back. Now, I like the goal and a quarter, I think, more than I like the under 3.25, especially looks like we might be losing that under 3.25 at some point soon. I imagine that money will probably come in on over and on Manchester City. So if you like under and Bournemouth, you wait. But that's my biggest interest there is the home side. And then last but not least, on Saturday, Arsenal hosting Newcastle, coming off a really disappointing, depressing end to that match on the road at Porto in the Champions League. Arsenal, goal and a half favorite with almost all the juice of Newcastle on the road. Over under here is 3.25, juice all the way to under. So not a lot of goals expected, though. I don't know how you can expect that from a Newcastle match nowadays, especially away from home. I mean, you wouldn't expect them to score much. I agree there. Unfortunately, I don't know if there's any chance in hell I'm backing a 1.5 goal favorite, considering Arsenal are feeling the pressure, had an extra match midweek, and are ultimately just trying to win matches at this point. Though I do think there's some blowout risk because they've been killing teams in the Premier League. It didn't happen so much in Portugal, but ultimately Newcastle, until they stop playing Dan Burn at left back, I mean, they are basically just liable to get roasted at all times, long balls, anything down that right-hand side or the left-hand side of Newcastle's defense. They are in major danger. And I'm just really, I mean, the amount of goals that have been scored in Newcastle matches recently are absolutely insane and should never have been to that level. But Arsenal, they should have a ton of possession in this matchup and should be able to pick on a defense that has not been performing. So I guess my biggest interest here is under 2.75, but I'm gonna try like heck to stay off of it because I just don't think I can yell any more things at my television and in the direction of Dan Burn at this point and still have my roommates, or excuse me, not roommates, I don't have any roommates, but next door neighbors not making a complaint. Moving to Sunday, Wolves host Sheffield United, currently Wolverhampton, a 1.25 goal favorite at home. Juices all the way up on the Sheffield United side, which is kind of surprising, but I guess it speaks to the doubt in Wolves as a favorite because they're usually a defensive side that wants to keep the matches as low scoring as possible. Over under here is 2.75. She's all the way to over. That's probably my biggest interest. If you're backing Sheffield United here, I mean, they've been getting blown out, which there's a good chance they respond to that, but it's hard to catch a falling knife and not have it go straight through your hand. So, pardon for the imagery, but that's, I think, a good feeling or good thing to feel if you're going to back any sort of Sheffield United thing here. With that said, I think if anything, I think Wolves try to keep this a low scoring match. They take a lead and they kill the game. I'm not really sure that's a great strategy, but even if they kill the game twice, with goals, that's still not enough to send us over. I imagine we might get to 3 before this kicks off, so I'll be waiting to see that. So that's my interest on Sunday morning here in the United States. And it looks like that's the only Sunday matchup because then we have the Carabao Cup final, which I will get to in 1 second. Make sure I can load that lineup before I forget. But we'll I guess we'll go to the last match on Monday, and then I'll go in the Carabao Cup. But last match, we have West Ham hosting Brentford. Currently, West Ham a pick 'em with all the juice. Over under here is 2.75, juiced very heavily to under / almost all the way. Brentford coming off a short week, considering they played, I think, on Tuesday. Not great for them, but West Ham have been so bad as of late that it's hard to really expect them to do too much offensively, and defensively they've been making huge mistakes lately as well. So I don't really know what to expect from this matchup besides two teams that have really been struggling nowhere near expectations. And there's probably some stress on both of these managers, to say the least. I keep waiting to hear David Moyes getting sacked, but it hasn't happened yet. His team's been really bad. I don't know that it's all his fault, but certainly the fan base thinks it is. I think Brentford are getting too much respect here, though, as a pick 'em away from home. I imagine with all the juice on West Ham, this climbs to a quarter goal favorite and closes there, but it could close pick 'em as well. And then I probably don't have any interest in in a road pick 'em, but total here at 2.75. I mean, it's just hard to trust either of these defenses, but it's also hard to trust the offenses. So I'll put under 2.75 on my list. and we'll see where this number moves by the end of the week. So now I'll move to the Carabao Cup final, which should be an interesting one. Should be a dandy potentially at the what's it called at the Wembley Stadium in London, if I'm not mistaken. Chelsea and Liverpool. Looks like I had initially Chelsea was a half a goal underdog. Let's see, keep I can keep you posted on where that number has gone, or I can actually just tell you rather than keep you posted. So Chelsea, I had initially as a half a goal underdog, total at 2 3/4, which feels pretty high to me. Looks like we actually have to lift the trophy odds already. Thank you, Bet Online, which all lines are quoted courtesy of Bet Online. There are promo codes in the podcast descriptions at the various places you would consume this podcast. So Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast is probably the best way to say it, but YouTube as well. Links on there. If you're not a member yet of Bet Online, go get a 50% match bonus for your first time deposit. If you're not a member at SportsBetting.ag, their sister site, you get a 100% match. So I would start there. Exactly the same site, same openers, which is why I use Bet Online, amongst other things. Great juice as well. Been a sponsor of this podcast a long time. So go follow those links, get some extra money. I think they'll kick me back some, not out of what you're getting, but certainly get some money going my direction, which I will take. Looks like I'm just scrolling at the FA Cup land, which is not what I meant. Let's see. So trying to get a current line on the Carabao Cup final. We are there, hopefully right about now as I keep stalling. English League 2 matches, if you want to bet those, are on Bet Online as well. Here we go. Okay, final. So Chelsea have actually caught some money. It looks like they're down from plus 165 underdog to win and lift the trophy. They are now all the way lower to a nice, actually a very nice plus 120. So they've dropped 27.27% from what I have from that initial number. Liverpool down from minus 205 to minus 150. Liverpool had to play that extra match midweek, but and yes, they've sustained some injuries to say the least, but that feels it doesn't really reflect the differences in the teams to me at this point. Total, or I guess side has dropped also from a half a goal underdog to a quarter. That's low. Total here has maintained. So pretty much total's the same. So I guess the market's expecting Liverpool to score less and for Chelsea to score more, considering the side prices dropped. I don't really agree with that at all. I gotta say, total feels high, especially for a cup final, which usually play really tight, and really they are just about trying to keep the match as close as possible. Especially from a Chelsea perspective, which I don't really trust their offense much, but I gotta say I don't really trust I mean, Chelsea's defense is their best side. Is it that good? No, I think there's some problems with Liverpool. But after seeing Liverpool really struggle with Luton Town midweek, going to halftime trailing at home at Anfield, not a great little sign going into it. Maybe they bounce back, maybe respond. I guess maybe this is a commentary on Mohamed Salah and his health and potential ability to start here. But I would expect a pretty tight, as I break my microphone setup. Great. Awesome. I would expect a pretty tight match here, especially with Chelsea fans dreaming that this is their only way to get a trophy this year, because it does look to be. Liverpool with a lot on their minds and should be, I think, a much bigger favorite. So I'll be waiting to see where this number moves. I think early indications is that this is not a full Liverpool lineup. So I'll go with under 2 3/4, and I'll make that my ultimate best bet for the English portion of this episode now as I move on to La Liga in Spain. So we'll start on Friday with Real Sociedad hosting Villarreal. Real Sociedad coming off of their Champions League disappointment, and then they also have the Copa del Rey semifinal, another home leg, this one against Mallorca, which should be, big benefit for them to play on Friday. I'm sure Mallorca is not happy about that, but Real Sociedad, a 3/4 goal favorite, a little bit more juice, very slightly. Over under here is 2.5, juiced heavily to under. Now, Villarreal have been trying to make over their side to become a defensive brand or to play a defensive style of football. They are an offense-only brand. So it's not gone very well. Don't really want to do much with their 3/4 of a goal on the road. The Real Sociedad have not been scoring goals, so that'll be my interest. That'll be in the under 2.5 on Friday's La Liga match. Moving to Saturday, the early one, we have Granada hosting Valencia. Currently, Granada a pick'em, slightly more juice on Valencia on the road. Over under here is 2, juiced all the way to over. I don't really see a lot of goals in this matchup. Granada have really been struggling to score. Sold Brian Zaragoza to Bayern Munich early in the winter transfer window because I guess Bayern was so desperate and probably upped the fee quite a bit. Granada on the other side, I don't know why. I feel like they should have just kept him, but maybe Zaragoza said he was going to hold out and not play. Maybe that forced their hand. But Granada being a favorite here, or excuse me, a pick 'em, does not reflect how they've played this season. They've been struggling and fighting for close matches lately. Credit them for that as they're trying to find some like shred of hope to potentially get out of the three bottom relegation spots. But the gap just keeps growing wider and wider. Fortunate for them, the bottom of the league has not been really spread, I guess, separating too much. So I guess it's not growing as wide as it could be. My interest here is Valencia on a side, which they're unfortunately at a pick 'em yet. So I don't think that's a position where I play something unless I really want to be against somebody on the road without any sort of quarter of a goal or something like that. I think my biggest interest right now is the under 2, but I think we get 2.25 before this kicks off on Saturday morning here in the United States. Barcelona then hosts Getafe. Currently, Barca, a goal and a quarter favorite with more juice. Over under is 3, juiced all the way to under. Weird to see a very heavily juiced under for Barcelona, especially in La Liga play. But Getafe are a really great defensive side. They're going to be very physical. And we saw in the opener to start the season when I think I want to say Rafinha got sent off. Also, Xavi, the manager, got sent off. Xavi Hernandez, that Barcelona doesn't really handle well with physicality. We've seen that they're pretty immature. They're starting a 16-year-old now, which was not there at the beginning of the season. They're even, I guess, more mature then, but didn't look like it. Getafe have been scoring a ton more goals than anyone would expect this season. I don't expect that to continue forever, but I do like them getting more than a goal, especially after Barca went on the road to Napoli and had a fairly strenuous Champions League match first leg midweek. I think it's a good spot for a relatively early Saturday kickoff. Even though Barcelona played in the early matches, I think in Champions League midweek. I think Getafe are going to be primed and ready, well rested. If you're going to play under, don't lose that 3. But Barcelona, I've seen them get bet up until kickoff all the time. Total is usually the same. So I'll probably wait to see if that juice flips a little bit or see if we're starting to get some 2 3/4 out there. And maybe I lock in the under 3 then. But I like Getafe getting a goal and a quarter on the road. Alaves then hosts Mallorca. Currently, Alaves a half a goal favorite to on a newly promoted side, half a goal favorite to a La Liga staple, but Mallorca certainly in that relegation fight are, I'm sure, very concerned at this point. Alaves a half a goal favorite, more juice on Mallorca on the road. Slightly over under here is 1 3/4. She's all the way to over, and I'll be waiting to see if this one touches 2. Don't expect a lot of goal scoring. I think for that reason, I'm interested in Mallorca, though they have shown that they are willing to rest in the past. Or rotate when they're playing multiple matches in a week. They do have the Copa del Rey on Tuesday, so I believe. So we'll see what the kind of lineup they put out there. I would imagine that they're probably more focused on staying in the league, so probably get a better, more full lineup here. But we'll see, and I'll wait and see. And I'd love to see that total climb to 2 because it looks like it's heading in that direction, though. Wouldn't be shocked if it stayed below 2, and that's usually too low for me to play under in any sort of matchup, especially La Liga, where they give out penalty kicks for fun. Almeria then hosts Atletico Madrid. Currently, Almeria a 3/4 goal underdog with more juice. Over under is 2 3/4, juice more to the under. Almeria have been fighting. Also, still haven't won yet. I think they have the record for most La Liga matches without a victory. Sad story for them, and I don't think that'll change here with Atletico Madrid. Though Atleti come off a really tough matchup, losing on the road at San Siro in Italia, in Milano, on the road at Inter. Now they have to go get a victory. Certainly traveling back and forth, back-to-back road games, not a really great situation for them, but they do get the worst team in La Liga for the easiest road match that you could potentially have. I don't know that Atleti have a really easy time here. They did last weekend with Las Palmas, so I bet against that. Didn't expect that to happen and felt like really it was just a lot of bad mistakes by their opponent. Almeria, I don't think will be as willing to play with the ball. I think they're going to be realizing this is a very tough matchup for them, and they're going to try to keep their net as clean as possible. So I think my biggest interest here, I'm a little bit surprised Almeria are below a goal underdog, but we could see that happen. Plenty of time for that number to move. I think my biggest interest here is under 2 3/4 as Atleti are looking at the Copa del Rey semi that they have next Thursday as well. So there's potentially some look ahead factor, or maybe they pull some guys early with a big lead and then try to kill the game, which is normally a Simeone style anyway. Moving to Sunday, Cadiz hosts Celta de Vigo. Currently, Cadiz a pick'em at home. All the juice on Celta de Vigo on the road. Looks like this one's climbing to a quarter goal underdog on that home team, and that'll interest me there. Over under here is 2, juiced almost all the way to under. Not expecting a lot of goals here. Celta have been playing a lot better. Had that awful, tough back-breaking loss to Barcelona last weekend, but they are used to those. They've had a lot of them this season. I think there's not really much for me to say on this matchup right now, waiting for Cadiz to hit a quarter of a goal underdog, and then I think become a lot more interested. So I'll just put under 2 on my list as potential for that ultimate best bet right now. Real Betis then hosts Athletic Club Bilbao, coming off a big win over Girona at home. We currently have Betis a quarter goal underdog at home after getting knocked out of the Europa Conference League. They basically slid out of an advancing position in the Europa League on I think the last match day, then took a loss at home to Dinamo Zagreb, a much smaller club in Zagreb, Croatia, and then took a lead after a great goal, substituted the goal scorer at halftime, which was a little bit curious to me. Maybe that was a fitness or a health type of thing, but then conceded an equalizer, hit the under, which was nice because that was my recorded reel short, wherever if you're the real underscore you want on Instagram or on YouTube if you want to see those minute long clips. But you could go see the crowd video I grabbed from Croatia, which looked insane and looked like pretty much any European soccer crowd is legit, is basically how I'm saying it. But Real Betis, what are they playing for this year? They've completely overhauled their squad. They got a bunch of new faces in there, which have not helped an offense that's been struggling anyway. I just don't know that I want to back Real Betis at home because I don't really trust them to score goals. I think under is the biggest interest for me here. It does feel like there's some value getting a quarter of a goal at home from Athletic Club, who really want to counterattack, but they've been playing great. They're in a Champions League discussion for the first time in a while. Really, I think since the pandemic, when I was, I guess, fully jumping into European soccer. I guess it's been a long time now. My gosh, but under 2.25 is probably my biggest interest there in that one, and feels like might even be an ultimate best bet potential. Las Palmas then hosts Osasuna, coming off of probably their most disappointing match of the season. Now they're at home. We get to, I guess, build back some confidence, and probably will be a little bit more careful, or at least more considerate of when they play the ball out of the back after the big mistakes. What that probably means is probably good for Osasuna. Might get a little bit more of the ball, though I don't expect them to possess much of it because Las Palmas, they're essentially Barca light with worse players, but they try to control the ball the whole way, and that's all comes from their manager. Las Palmas currently a quarter goal favorite at home. All the juice on Osasuna on the road over under here is 2, juice more to the over. I think that's a low total, but one that it offers a pretty important push on 2. I think that's my biggest interest in this one is under 2. I don't really trust Osasuna to score. I feel like they are a team that gets fortunate when the ball goes and hits the back of the net. And you could probably say the same thing about Las Palmas, though a lot of times possession does deserve goals. I'm not so sure in their case. Real Madrid then hosts Sevilla at the nightcap on Sunday. Real Madrid, a goal and a half favorite with all the juice over under is 3, juice all the way to over. And this feels like a very respectful number for Real Madrid. I'm kind of surprised that Sevilla, who've been playing pretty well, haven't been scoring a lot, but defense has been a lot better. They basically were a fade and under team for most of last year, and I guess most of this year as well. Have turned around a little bit lately. They found a goal scorer in Isak up top, playing now off of Yusuf and Serie as well. He's not scoring anywhere near the amount of goals he scored when Sevilla were at their peak in second place in La Liga a couple seasons ago before drifting towards the end. But I just feel like Real Madrid, I mean, I don't think Jude Bellingham's back for this matchup. Their offense is different without him. They got I guess, a good victory on the road at Leipzig in the Champions League, but then haven't really impressed too much. Vinny Jr., of course, if he has a good day, he can hit this over himself. Not really, but certainly contribute to more than 3 goals. I just feel like Sevilla have been better. So I think a goal and a half is too big. I think this is a closer match, and we might even get 3.25 before this kicks off. I move next, and last but not least, on Monday, as I'm seeing Palo Alto Networks just completely climb up almost 5% today. Wow. In the background. Sorry. Back to soccer, though. I still am planning to do a stock podcast. It's coming up sometime soon. I just got to find some time when there's not a million matches or college basketball games that I'm betting. Moving to Monday, Girona favorite at home to Rayo Vallecano, a 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice, might climb to 1 based on Rayo's struggles. Over under here is 2 3/4, juice more to over. And I guess you could also I should comment on the Girona struggles too. Rayo looked like a perfect team to get right against, though, because they've been doing nothing offensively, making pretty big mistakes defensively. Aridane, the signing from Osasuna, is literally, I mean, if Dan Burn is toast, as I've been putting out there on Twitter, I don't even know what to call Aridane. He's one of the worst central defenders. I'm amazed that he's still playing. Must just be because Rayo have no other options, because he should have been dropped a long time ago. For that reason, I'm pretty concerned with playing an under here, even if it does get to 3, which it looks like it's trending that way. I just don't really know what to do with this one. Fading Girona makes sense, but I feel like at home, where they've played so much better off of 2 straight embarrassing losses against Athletic Club, which I guess they did fight back on, so it wasn't as embarrassing, but certainly based on where they sat in the table, certainly it's become a streak, a losing streak at this point. That's not good for them, but they're not a team that's seeking the La Liga title. They never said they were. I think they were quietly behind closed doors, but they're seeking Europe, and this is a big match for them to get on the right, I guess, on the right path with a victory. So not much for me to do on Monday in La Liga, but we'll see what happens with line movement as Rayo Vallecano look like they might close a goal underdog here. We might see 3 as the total as well. So for my ultimate best bet in Spain, I'm going to go with a potentially boring under here. As most of you probably following along know, that's kind of my jam. I'll go with that Real Betis under 2.25 goals. Just haven't really seen any change in that offense and don't really expect much to change either. Moving to Serie A in Italy, we have a Friday match here. Bologna hosting Verona. Currently, Bologna a 1-goal favorite at home. Although juice on Verona on the road. Over under here is 2.25 and is juice a little bit more to over than to under. So Verona basically had to sell all their players that weren't anything that wasn't nailed down. They were selling in the January window. They got a great draw on the road at Juventus. Probably not a good sign for Juve at this point, and their title challenge look like that's over with. But Verona have been fighting. They don't have a lot of goal scoring in their team, but they did find 2 goals at Juve. Now they're on the road at Bologna, and this is going to be a really tough one for them. But Bologna, they've been playing. They had an extra match they had to make up. So they're potentially a little bit in a better rest advantage. Verona are on the road. Fighting the crowd's going to be tough, but they're honestly going to a stadium where there's not a lot of goals that are going to be scored. So I expect Verona to try to hold out as long as they possibly can, try to get Suslov on the ball and see what he could create. Folunchalo, maybe he's going to have an incredible top of the box type of worldy goal. I would expect those are few and far between for Verona coming forward, though. So I'll play under 2.25 as my best bet on that game on Friday. Moving to Saturday, Sassuolo hosts Empoli. Currently, Sassuolo a 1/4 goal favorite. Jesus split both ways. Over under here is 2.5. Juice a little bit more to under. Now, Empoli have been playing a lot better. They're fighting relegation, trying their best. But Sassuolo are kind of getting dragged back into relegation discussion in Italy. So this seems like a nervy matchup. I think Empoli is probably the side I want. Quarter feels pretty low for them, considering they've their struggles of the season, but Sassuolo have been playing just as bad lately. So that's probably more of a form type of play. So I'll put Empoli getting a 1/4 goal on my list, with under 2.5 as my bigger interest in that one. Salernitana then hosts Monza, coming off a big upset win over Milan, their neighbors. Salernitana at home, a pick 'em. All the juice on Monza on the road. Over under here is 2.25, juice more to the over. And I've noticed in Serie A in Italy over the years that short underdogs usually are very profitable, and this is certainly one I didn't expect to be. Salernitana, I pick them at home considering how bad they've been playing. I don't know that I want to play a pick them. I'll see if this climbs to a 1/4 goal before this kicks off, but my ultimate interest here is under 2.25, though it doesn't feel great with the lack of interest in defense, or just kind of lacking defenses that will be on the pitch. But I don't expect Salernitana to score much. Though certainly the price on the side makes me feel like there's a lot of people backing Salernitana in this matchup. Moving to the nightcap on Saturday, we have Genoa hosting Udinese. Currently Genoa a 1/4 goal favorite, which feels like a fairly cheap price based on how they played this season, but they are the newly promoted side, and I don't know how many times they've been favored this season. Udinese have been pretty much struggle bus this whole season. Had some good runs of goal scoring after really not scoring at all for a year or so. But then they've kind of come back to the pack. Got a big win at Juventus, but who isn't doing that lately, or who isn't getting unexpected results against Juve at this point? So I'm not sure how to take that one. I think my biggest interest here is under 2, though it's pretty low for an Udinese match based on how many goals were going in for the midway part of the season. Moving to Sunday, we have Juventus hosting Frosinone in the early matchup. Big get right opportunity opportunity for Juve. Frosinone, one of the newly promoted, have basically been unable to defend for months now. Juve, a 1.5 goal favorite, more juice on Frosinone on the road. Over under here is 2 3/4 juice, more to over. And the big question here is can the Frosinone defense defend? It's been absent, and this is a good opportunity for them. Juve, they like to take a lead and kill matches, but I don't know that they've had a ton of chances for that lately. They've been falling behind a lot. I don't think Frosinone's offense is very likely to puncture Juventus and really cause them a bunch of problems, though. So my biggest interest here is that under 2 3/4. I'd love to see it hit 3. That's certainly a number I'll be looking out for on that early Sunday kick, which I feel like is also a good spot for few goals. Cagliari then hosts Napoli. Currently, Cagliari a 0.5 goal underdog at home. Almost all the juice on Napoli on the road. Over under here is 2.5, headed towards 2 3/4. Very juicy over. Cagliari in a good position to potentially catch Napoli coming off their Champions League match with Barcelona, which they did get an equalizer in the second half. And I mean, ultimately spent a lot of their energy on that match. Plus, they got a new manager in, so who knows what that lineup's going to look like and what they're going to. I mean, Victor Osimhen finally returning from AFCON and other. I mean, there's more to it than just playing in a Cup of Nations for Nigeria and losing in the final. But Osimhen got the goal to equalize. Still looks like, I mean, I don't know that we've really seen a lot of brute strength from him. Usually he's a speed pace guy, but using his body a great way against Inigo Martinez, a very rugged defender for Barcelona to score that goal. That'll probably put some fear into Cagliari. I expect them to be very defensive at home and just don't really trust Napoli to score many goals. So my biggest interest here is under 2.5. Moving next to Lecce, hosting Inter Milan. Lecce, a 1.25 goal underdog with almost all the juice here. Over under here is 2 3/4, just a little bit more to under. Inter still look like the scariest team to fade in all of Europe, at least all in, maybe that's a stretch. Definitely in Italy. Best team, look like Scudetto is theirs. Lecce have been unable to keep clean sheets. It's been a big problem for them. I don't expect that to happen against the Scudetto favorites in Italy either. So then if they're not keeping a clean sheet, how many are they going to score themselves? Probably not many. Inter they want to play on the counterattack, but they've shown that they can score goals no matter if they have the ball or they don't. I think coming off a midweek match against Atleti puts Lecce in a good position to get Inter on the road, potentially a little bit weary, but Inter is so used to playing multiple matches. They took off Thuram at halftime. Arnautovic missed a bunch of chances, but ended up scoring the one to get that advantage to go to the Spanish capital, at least with an aggregate lead. So at this point, I'm not really sure. I'm questioning Inter Milan and wondering if they're going to be fatigued. I think this is going to be a tough matchup for Lecce. I don't really know what to do here. I like that they're getting more than a goal. Does look like it's potentially going to head back towards 1, which would say something if the market is betting Lecce to that degree. I would expect it probably stays here at 1.25. Because if you want Lecce money, you probably the push factor doesn't get enough people into the Lecce side. Total here, I guess I lean under. That's probably my interest in this one is Lecce, the home underdog, and to that under, but it's a little bit fleeting at the moment. Next, we'll move to the nightcap on Sunday, and this is a big matchup. Milan, 1/4 goal favorite at home to Atalanta. All the juice on Atalanta on the road here. Over under here is 2 3/4. Juice pretty heavily to under. I won against Milan, which is a rare occasion in the Europa League Saturday, though they were down 3-0 on aggregate. And Milan were not trying to win, but ended up equalizing twice. Took 2 penalties for Rennes to win that matchup. So Milan have not been easy for me to slay that dragon, to say the least, this season. But Atalanta have been playing great. They didn't play midweek because they got that bye from winning their Europa League group. I think Milan are going to have a real tough time winning this matchup. So I'm very interested in Atalanta getting that 1/4 goal. And I guess I lean to that under 2 3/4 a little bit because I think Atalanta, they're more than just an offensive team. They've been playing, they really look like a great team and side in general. I think they can go into Milan and get that victory. Last but not least, on Monday, we have 2 matches Monday. Roma hosting Torino coming off their penalty kick win in the Europa League. So big for them to move through. Roma, 1/2 goal favorite to Torino, who played midweek and lost at home in a match they controlled against Lazio. They'll probably be pretty fired up for this one. Over under here is 2 and a single quarter, 2.25, with a huge amount of juice on under right now. Torino closed, I think, total of 2, very juiced in their match with Lazio that they lost midweek. Don't expect them a lot different here, but I am interested in Torino. I just feel like Roma coming off a really long match. They played Lukaku the whole time. Dybala came off in extra time in the first, I guess, period beyond 90 minutes. So I think there's a good chance we might see some rotation. So I'll be very keen to see if this total is moving at all. Or total looks like it's going to fall to 2.25 right now. But really to see if Torino will fall from that half a goal underdog. I'm going to be watching that because there's a lot of juice, but I guess there's not a huge difference to me between a quarter and a half. Just the fact that if you draw, you only win half your bet on a quarter goal underdog. Last but not least, we have Fiorentina hosting Lazio. Currently, Fiorentina a quarter goal favorite at home, more juice on Lazio on the road. Over under here is 2.25. Just a little bit more to under as well. Lazio with a big win midweek. I'm not sure it was deserved, but they got it, and that was important for them. Potentially some weary legs going to Firenze, but like not a huge distance between Roma and the capital and Florence. But I think Fiorentina, they are really a team that wants to possess the ball. Lazio is probably fine with them doing that. I just don't know that Fiorentina score enough. And I think Lazio's defense, we'll see about the injury I guess sending off to Mario Gila. So he probably plays in this matchup. I'm actually not sure because Champions League's not for a little while. But regardless, or excuse me, Gila was sent off in Serie A play. So he'll be out. Patrick has been hurt. I don't know really what the Lazio defense is going to look like, so I guess that's a concern. We'll see certainly with lineups on Monday before we play anything there. But I guess my interest there are Lazio getting that quarter, which might be too short for me depending on defensive injuries. But I still like under 2.25. I just don't think there's a lot of goal scoring meant for that matchup on the late game Monday night in the Italian central of the center of Italia. For my best bet on in Italy, I'm gonna go with Atalanta getting a quarter of a goal at Milan. It's a little bit risky on the road potentially, but I just really like the way Atalanta have been playing. I think short rest potentially. I mean, definitely for Milan. Their defense has not been that strong. I don't think they were able to really rotate as much as they wanted to, despite having a 3-0 advantage in Europa League. So give me Atalanta getting a quarter of a goal as my ultimate as a possibility for my ultimate best bet coming up end of show. 42 minutes in almost. We'll go to the Bundesliga and we got the Liga, and then we'll get out of here. Leverkusen, a 1.75 goal favorite on Friday to Mainz. All the juice on Mainz on the road. Mainz 0.5. Over under here is 3, and it is juice slightly to under. Leverkusen have been the best team. That looks like the Meisterschale, I almost said Scudetto. Sorry, that's Italy. Just had Italy on the brain. But the Meisterschale looks like it's Leverkusen's unless they really choke it up. So they're in great shape. They have Europa League on the horizon, but they've had a bye there, so that's huge. I think from Mainz perspective, they changed their manager for they now have the third manager of the season. Got pretty good respect, I feel like, from the marketplace in the Bundesliga last weekend. Got a win finally, but they've been getting respect for a while, and I'm not sure it was deserved. This is a really tough match for them today. I think their best case scenario of mine is keep this goalless. I don't think that's likely against Leverkusen. I feel like with a very juiced 1.75, it's a big number. I just feel like Leverkusen deserve it at this point. My biggest interest here, I think, is under 3, which we'll see. It looks like juice is pretty split there, so it looks like it's going to close at that number. I think came down from 3.25 earlier this week. Borussia Mönchengladbach then hosts Bochum on Saturday in the German Bundesliga. Gladbach, a half a goal favorite at home. All the juice on Bochum on the road, coming off their upset victory over Bayern München. Over under here is 3, just all the way to under. And I think there's a fairly reasonable expectation that Bochum will not play their best after probably celebrating a Bayern München victory. It did not clinch them relegation safety by any means, but I think, as Bernardo said in a post-match interview, that was certainly not one of those games they expected to get anything from, and then they got 3 points. So huge for Bochum, and I'm excited to see them still in the league, hopefully next season. With that said, I like that half of a goal. I like under 3 as well. Borussia Mönchengladbach, they are in transition. They've been one of the teams that have the highest goal efficiencies, and they score a ton of goals from corners. Those things are unlikely to continue. Yes, you could say that set piece dominance is a thing, but I just don't really believe in those things continuing for too long. So give me Bochum getting a half of a goal, and I like under 3 as well. Werder Bremen then hosts Darmstadt. Werder Bremen, a 3/4 goal favorite at home with all the juice. Over under here is 2.5, juice all the way to over. And Darmstadt, the bottom club in the German Bundesliga, they look like they're ticketed for the Schweizer Liga next season, but they're going to fight their hearts out. They've been doing a good job of that. Fighting for late goals is really how they've been scoring them. Did it against Eintracht Frankfurt, got two to equalize, got a late one against Stuttgart to push the total last weekend. But ultimately, Werder Bremen, they have been playing much better as of late. Had a setback, but then got back on the right side, I think, last weekend with a win at Cologne on Friday. Had a little bit more time to rest for this one as well, and should have a pretty good home atmosphere. I'm not sure it's that intimidating. I think my biggest interest here is that under 2.5 looks like it might hit 2 3/4 before kickoff, which would be important to get a potential push on 3. I think Darmstadt will be competitive here. I just don't really like, even if they get to a full goal of insurance, I'm just not sure I trust their offense to score much. And I think they're really playing to keep this as low scoring as possible. VfB Stuttgart then hosts Köln. Currently, Stuttgart a 1.5 favorite with more juice. Over under is 3. Juice is split both ways. Hard to trust FC at this point. They're fighting relegation big time. And where do their goals come from? No idea. The nice part is they go on the road and they're going to try to keep this as low scoring as possible. Stuttgart now getting Guirassy back from the AFCON and his good performance with Guinea, plus Denis Undav. I mean, you got basically got two big time informed strikers that are going to really go right at Köln this whole time. Not a great feeling for me that Köln will do well here. I think it's really my biggest interest here is in the FC under, and unders have been coming around and finally coming good in the Bundesliga after a really awful Hinterrunde, the first half of the season. Union Berlin then has FC Heidenheim, or TSC Heidenheim, excuse me. Currently Union a half goal favorite. All the juice on Heidenheim on the road. Over under here is, it's not, sorry, it is FC Heidenheim. It's TSC Hoffenheim. My bad. For all of you Bundesliga fans, please don't kick me to the other side of the ship at this point. But Union, half a goal favorite at home. All the juice on Heidenheim on the road. Over here is 2.5. Juice all the way to under. So seems like the marketplace likes the road team and under at this point. Certainly understand betting unders with Union Berlin. Don't really trust their offense much. So they've been really rocketing up the table, getting out of the relegation fight. I'm sad that Urs Fischer is not there, their manager that brought them all the success all the way to Champions League from this Schweizer Liga. But it is what it is at this point. I think Heidenheim, they're another one of those teams that have been scoring a lot more efficiently than expected. I don't know necessarily that I'm afraid, though, of backing them on the road at Union. I think it's going to be a tough matchup. I think it's one of those that can certainly be as low scoring as possible. Union will probably be more aggressive, more offensive than they were under the previous manager, but and that's resulted in some better performances. But I feel like they've also been fairly fortunate with who they've been playing on their schedule. So I lean to under 2.5 and also to the road dog here. And the top spiel on Saturday, we have Bayern München hosting RB Leipzig. Currently, Bayern a 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice. Over under here is 3.25 juice all the way to over. This is a weird matchup because Bayern are in really troubling state right now. We've seen Thomas Tuchel, who is, I think, reportedly out at the end of the season. Thought it might even be something that happens mid-season, but I don't also know who they're going to get at this point. Leipzig, that 3/4 goal underdog on the road, doesn't feel like enough for me considering how poorly they've played this season. They're probably still angry about their Champions League loss to Real Madrid on that first goal that was rolled out, though I think that was the right thing to do. I think total here at 3.25. It's just hard to really play any sort of unders with Bayern at home. They've not been playing well, though, so I think I'm most interested in Leipzig if I can get that full goal of insurance, which it looks like with the juice we might get something by the time that top spiel kicks off at 11:30 Central Time here in the United States. Moving to Sunday, we have Eintracht Frankfurt hosting VfL Wolfsburg. Currently, Frankfurt, the 1/4 goal favorite at home. More juice on Wolfsburg on the road. Over under here is 2.5. Just a little bit more to under. Frankfurt, I mean, they got to be crushed after falling. I mean, had a 2-0 lead on the road at Union Saint-Gilloise in Belgium in the first leg of the Europa League. Choked that up with some really bad play to give up the first goal and gave up an equalizer 2-2. Came home, fell behind 2-0, got a late goal to kill my under, unfortunately. But ultimately brought in all these players, brought in Ugo Ekitike, who they haven't been willing to start yet. And now they're out of the European competition, and I'm sure that's not good for them financially. Don't think it's a financial problem necessarily, but certainly they have not been playing well. And as a 1/4 goal favorite, I think that speaks to it. They're probably fairly concerned about rest levels or fatigue levels would probably be the better way to say it. at least the German Bundesliga market at this point. Wolfsburg have not been winning matches, so I guess not the worst team to get at home, but and they're at home and second straight match at home. That pitch looked awful in Frankfurt. It seems to usually be a Stuttgart problem, but definitely has looked pretty bad in Frankfurt. And I feel like that might restrict offenses a little bit more. I also feel like Frankfurt, they've got to start playing defense. They've been taking leads in all these matches. I think they took a 2-0 lead at Freiburg last weekend, equalized 2-2, took a lead 3-2, got equalized again 3-3, and nearly lost at the end as well. I think there's some problems in Frankfurt. Their defense hasn't changed. Their goalkeeper's back and looks to be healthy compared to what Kevin Trapp was dealing with early in the year with back problems. I think I just feel like there's a lot of problems right now at Frankfurt, and maybe this is a chance for them to get right, but I just don't really want to bet on that, especially considering they have a rest disadvantage and a significant one at that. So I'm interested in Wolfsburg getting that quarter of a goal. It's probably not enough for me on a normal circumstance, but ultimately a result will win you a bet there. And I think under 2.5, as I will continue to, I guess, die on this Eintracht Frankfurt few goals will be scored type of hill. They were taking leads and killing games and not really playing offense. That certainly has not been the case lately, but I expect they'll probably head in that direction as a response to how bad their defense has been holding leads. Borussia Dortmund then hosts TSG Hoffenheim finally. Dortmund a goal and a quarter favorite at home. Almost all the juice on Hoffenheim on the road. Over under here is 3.5. Juice all the way to over. Dortmund pretty angry, I think, with a late penalty conceded that cost them a first leg lead on the road at I think PSV Eindhoven, if I'm not mistaken. But at home in the Schwarzwaldstadion. That's Black Forest. That's Freiburg. My bad. Anyway, in the Signal Iduna Park, I've been there. I should remember the places I've been. In front of the yellow wall should be a good spot to bounce back, especially because Hoffenheim are not very good. They've been struggling. Plus, they really, I mean, Hoffenheim's in great on the road, but that's really, I think, just based on how weak their home field advantage is. So that doesn't say too much to me. Total here, 3.5 is very high. I feel like I'm most interested in a low scoring match here. Hoffenheim, though, are not a really great defensive team. Borussia Dortmund, though, did play Champions League midweek. So that's probably something that pushes me towards under 3.5. It's also gigantic total for what we've been seeing in the Bundesliga, and especially for Borussia Dortmund, who've been really playing low scoring matches for a long time now. Went under 3 last weekend. I just don't. 3.5 is gigantic, and it looks like it's even going to hit 3.75. I just don't believe in that coming, even with Dortmund's defensive problems. I just don't think their offense is that great. Yes, this could go over. Certainly not a lot of defense that wants to be played in this matchup, but this is a gigantic total, and I just can't agree with it. Last but not least, Augsburg hosts Freiburg. Currently, Augsburg a quarter goal favorite at home. More juice on Freiburg on the road. Over in here is 2.75. Juice fairly heavily to under. Freiburg have been a yo-yo team with the totals. They've been under, but did hit the over coming back from a 2-0 deficit against Lens. Big goalkeeper mistake, gave up the first and then fell behind on the second, but did get 2 goals, both off huge deflections. So I guess you could argue maybe that under was deserved yesterday, but I did win my Lens bet at the very least, right in regulation. But Freiburg now are going to be running on fumes here. Quarter goal underdog on the road to Augsburg. Probably is maybe the worst type of spread Freiburg have gotten on the road at Augsburg in a while. Wouldn't be shocked, though. Freiburg have not been getting super strong lines in the Bundesliga, but have been qualifying for Europa League back-to-back years. What Augsburg are going to do is high press. Freiburg are probably going to concede the possession because they're going to be gassed after they're a really thin roster right now with they're makeshift back lines playing 2 center backs they don't want to play. One that isn't even a center back. So there's been problems with Freiburg. And defensively, they're going to have to just really, I think, batten down the hatches and try their best to be as physical as possible and keep this as low scoring as possible to give themselves a chance to nick a goal to win. I think they're going to be running on fumes. We'll see what the lineups look like here. But total at 2.75 feels pretty high to me. And I think that's my biggest interest in that one. So my best bet before we get to Ligue 1 and France and then go through the ultimate best bet portion of the show. I think there's a lot to like in terms of low scoring matches here in the Bundesliga. I just feel like that Freiburg match is probably my biggest interest in under because I just think it's going to be very low scoring, hard to find any sort of goals in that matchup with one really tired team going on the road. Yes, you could see a no-show there, but I think Christian Streich has proven as a manager that he's going to get the best out of his team. So I'll go under 2 and 3/4. It's my best bet in the Bundesliga in Augsburg hosting Freiburg. So last but not least, we'll go through France's Ligue 1. We do have a match today. We'll start with Metz hosting Lyon. Currently Metz, a half a goal underdog at home with almost all the juice over under here is 2 and 1/4, and it is juiced more to the under, which makes sense. Metz are not a good goal scoring team. Lyon have been climbing off the bottom of the table. Amazing that a historic club was there for so long. But they're going to be trouble. They need to get to Europe, and they probably have no way to do that. But I think my biggest interest here is Metz getting it's under 2 and 1/4 goals. I like the home underdogs, of course, but I worry that they just are going to be defending this whole time. Lyon have been playing really well and are almost still feeling a little bit underpriced to me based on where they sit in the table versus how they've been playing as of late. We saw that as closing as a pick 'em to Nice without their captain last weekend, and that was a nice victory for the squad, and it was big reason why we're 67% over the last week. Lorient then hosts Nantes on Saturday morning here in the United States. Lorient, a pick 'em with all the juice over under here is 2 and 1/4. Juice split both ways. Lorient have been playing really well lately. I was hoping to get a maybe as an underdog here, just based on getting no respect over, I don't know, every year that Lorient have been in the league, but in Ligue 1. But I guess Nantes is I'm surprised to see Lorient with any sort of minus negative number in front next to their name for a spread. Yes, it's a pick 'em. If they draw, then you'll get your money back. But that's my interest there is Lorient as a side. I'll be waiting to see where this number moves. Don't have much interest in laying minus 123 on them at this point, but under 2 and 1/4 does seem like a reasonable play because I don't think Lorient are going to score a ton of goals, and Nantes are really a team that's been lacking offense for years. Racing Club de Strasbourg, then hosts Stade Brestois. Currently Strasbourg, a pick 'em, all the juice on Brest on the road. They've been playing really well. I think climbed all the way to second in the league on table, and it's been deserved, unexpected but deserved. Over under here is 2 and 1/4, just a little bit more to under. I think there's less likelihood that Brest will continue to score goals because they haven't done it for years and years and years. You could argue that confidence form things always contribute to go in the right direction, but I think the trouble here for Strasbourg is scoring themselves. So I think under 2 and 1/4 is my biggest interest in that one. Moving now to Sunday, we have a big lot of games plus an early matchup with Racing Club de Lens hosting Monaco. Lens coming off that really, really tough collapse, I guess you could call it. 2-0 lead on the road at Freiburg when they really had not much going for them. Conceded a goal in a set piece, and then a stoppage time equalizer, which then forced extra time and really puts them in bad shape. Not only crashing out of the Europa League after making Champions League, not good for them, but also now they have a home match against Monaco, who are going to be on the ball and putting them under pressure this entire match. I don't know how Lens responds to that. They were without Christopher Wu, really important center back, who's suspended. Amazing to me that you can get yellow card suspensions. They should all be cleared going into the knockout rounds, but I guess that's a UEFA thing, and I'm not going to at all try to explain officiating decisions in this sport. But Monaco is the side I want here. I don't know that I'd play him at Pick'em, but I'm interested there. And I feel like it's really hard to play any sort of unders with Monaco at this point, but 2 and 3/4 feels gigantic for a long side that should be running on fumes, even though they have a big crowd behind them. I'm not sure that will be enough to put them in a good position to get a victory against Monaco at home, and that's currently what a line is requiring to take my bet or take my risk. Le Havre then hosts Stade de Reims. Currently Le Havre, a quarter goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over under is 2 and 1/4. Just a little bit more to over, and I think it's a reflection on Reims just not playing well since the turn of the year. I don't think they're managed under pressure. They've been outperforming for years now, ever since Will Still came in. But Le Havre, a really good defense. They came off another low-scoring match, but disappointing last weekend. I think they played better here, and ultimately Le Havre are a team that I want to back unders with really going forward. They had a tough loss to Lille last weekend, but I think they respond here, especially at home. Moving next to Toulouse hosting Lille. Toulouse coming off a heartbreaking goalless result in the second leg after 2 penalties conceded to Benfica. Probably, to me, for my money, Toulouse should have been going through, but they didn't score enough goals, didn't score any goals at home. Now they're half a goal underdog at home to Lille. Over under here is 2.5. And I'm worried about Toulouse and they're fighting relegation A, though they've been playing really well since the start of 2024. But Lille are much better and rested, so that's concerning. I don't know really that I want to. I think I'm back to being concerned about playing unders against Lille. They're scoring a ton of goals. I'm not sure they're all deserved. And they did make some big defensive mistakes against Paris Saint-Germain, but that happens. My interest here, I guess, is still Toulouse, just backing them. They've been playing their best though in every match, and I wonder if this is a situation where maybe they look to rotate, and that would certainly put them their defense under big concerns for me against a Lille team that's been scoring a lot of goals lately. Nice then hosts Clermont Foot. Currently Nice a goal favorite at home with all the juice. Over into here is 2.25, juiced all the way to over. Clermont Foot, I've been seeing overs lately, though they're certainly not really contributing to it offensively from what I've seen. It's usually if they are contributing, it's from a penalty or they're behind and they're scoring a goal when the other team is kind of focused on buttoning up a match. And that seems to be when most goals go in, especially late in matches. But Nice have not been playing great. You could argue that yes, they were the longest. You can't argue that they were the longest unbeaten team in all of France, but they not really sure they've deserved their climb up the table to second. They've now conceded that position away. This is a tough match for them just because they are a big favorite here and they've not been scoring goals to deserve that. I think my biggest interest here is under 2.25. Don't really like the road side though, so I'm trying to potentially avoid those type of situations. But I think Clermont under 2.25 and potentially 2.5 is my biggest interest in that one. Moving next to PSG hosting Rennes. Currently PSG a 1.25 goal favorite. All the juice on Rennes on the road. Over under is 3, juiced very heavily to under. Tough spot for Rennes. They went for it, played their best that they had for their home leg against Milan. Thank you, Rennes, for that victory. Appreciate that. At Pick'em, rare that I play Pick'ems, but home teams sometimes I do, and that was a nice win, even though they certainly worked for it. Taking the lead 3 times was nerve-wracking, and 2 penalties took to get them, but I think they were deserved. Regardless, PSG at home, big favorite. Coming off not playing midweek. That's the scariest situation for Rennes to go in. Yes, it's a big price. Over a goal is large. I don't really know that I want much to do with that, though, after seeing how outclassed Rennes got on the road at Milan, who have not been playing great either. I guess it's a little bit transitive and hard to say that PSG, a trip in France versus Milan. I mean, it's hard to compare those two, but they were certainly more rested going on the road to Italy versus coming off a Thursday match at home, yes, in France, but then they have to go to Paris for not even the late match on Sunday. So that's not a great scenario. I feel like I'm trying to find reasons not to bet against PSG at this point. And last but not least, Marseille hosts Montpellier. Marseille, a 3/4 goal favorite, had a good, I guess, after falling behind, scored 3 consecutive to kill my +1 on Shakhtar Donetsk. But I think ultimately took advantage of a very tired team that hasn't been playing matches. And you could argue a lot of things that are going on with the Ukrainian side at this point. But Marseille, 3/4 goal favorite, a little bit more juice on Montpellier on the road. They've been struggling, but they do have a rest advantage here, and that helps. Over in here is 2.5, juice all the way to over. I don't really think there's a ton of goals in this matchup. I just haven't really. I would like to be against Marseille here. I think I need a full goal of insurance, and we don't have that yet. My biggest interest here is probably Marseille, is in that under 2.5 on Montpellier, I guess, as I always list the underdog. But I don't know that there's a ton I want to do with that necessarily. I mean, it just feels kind of ugly. And I just don't really want to back Montpellier. Have been really struggling. I think they got a good result last weekend, but how much was that deserved? I'm not sure. So I think I'll probably lay off that nightcap in France, or even the last 2, and probably make my money in that big wave of matches early Sunday morning. And we'll see what type of shape I'm in to wake up to watch that after what's hopefully a Texas Longhorns victory on the road at KU in Lawrence on Saturday evening in Lawrence, Kansas. But it's now time for the ultimate best bet portion of the show. Thank you for sticking in with me this whole time. It's been a long run, but I know some of you have been out there. We're over an hour. Wow. So thank you all for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, if you can subscribe, leave a 5-star review, do ever what you can in those places. It's huge for the search rankings. And if you write something, I will read it. If you want to write something towards college basketball host with Big East Ben, I'll have him read something and act it out. So if you want to be creative, that would be great. Or if it's to soccer related, I probably won't promise those sort of things because I'd be promising them for myself and not for somebody else. But I think ultimately all those sort of things would help. And ultimately, we're almost the ultimate best bet. If you're not a member of my Patreon yet, check it out. Patreon.com, just real_G Warner. Best spot to get all my plays, everything, and get them ASAP so you know when to lock them in as soon as I'm locking them. Of course, appreciate all the support at pregame. There's a podcast out right now, College Basketball with AJ Hoffman. We recorded last night. And there's also one coming out hopefully today in the next few hours with Big East Ben on the Need for Seeds feed, and that will be on this Betting the Pitch podcast network. So stay tuned there. Looking forward to some good news coming up in the near future. Plus, we should have a baseball podcast specific to Betting the Pitch coming up as well. I know all of you will be switching over to bet that as soon as the basketball stops bouncing, but baseball was really good to me last season and hoping to do more of that this year. But I guess I'm not even ready for it, but it's time for the ultimate best bet. So I might as well get this thing recorded so I can get out of here, get this uploaded, and then move on to the next set of podcasts that we're doing on this Friday, February 23rd. So let's do it. This is the real_G Warner. This is Betting the Pitch on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, wherever you can find it. Please subscribe, follow, leave 5-star reviews. Huge for everything. This is the top 5 European soccer leagues ultimate best bet portion of the show. In the English Premier League, I like Chelsea under 2.75 goals in the Carabao Cup final. In Real Betis, I like the under 2.25, the Real Betis match in La Liga. In Ligue 1 in France, I like Strasbourg under 2.25 goals. In the Bundesliga in Germany, I like Sports Club Freiburg under 2.75. And in Serie A, I like Atalanta getting a quarter of a goal on the road at Milan. So if you're not following me yet on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, YouTube, the real_G Warner. If you're not on Patreon, go check it out. Best spot to get all my plays, leans, write-ups, and everything. So it's time for the ultimate best bet. So I'm going to go with that Carabao Cup final. I'll go Chelsea under 2.75 goals. Neutral site. Don't expect, especially after Liverpool played midweek. I think the line is suggesting some potential rotation, and I don't expect a lot of goals. Cup finals usually play really tight. So play under Chelsea under 2.75 goals in that Carabao Cup final on Sunday. And that'll do it for this episode. Thank you for tuning in for Betting the Pitch. I will see you all very soon on the next podcast, which should be out in just a couple hours.